There's a blacklist there. Shlomo, use your wisdom to take care of Yoav ben Tzruya. Use your wisdom to take care of Shimi ben Gera. And we ask ourselves, when we read the Tanakh for its face value, is this the last will and testament? It's like some of you said before, it's as if David is making accounts, cheshbonot, right? I have to take revenge against this one, I have to take revenge against that one. It sounds like a very, shall we say, cheap way to end his life. This is the last words of David. That's question one. Question number two, you raised, David, that what is the reason that Shlomo is going to be eliminating these people? Because he's listened to his father, correct? He's going to listen to his father. But you said that the killing of people prevented David from building the Beit HaMikdash. And your fear is what? If Shlomo kills these people, he will not be able to build the Beit HaMikdash? So that seemingly is not the case. When we learn the reason why David could not build the Beit HaMikdash, like Ezra Sefer writes in the book of Chronicles, Divrei Yamim, quote, Ki damim rabim shafachta. That's not a lacking. That's not a chisaron. It's not something missing in the personality of David. David had a mission. We touched upon this briefly yesterday. And his mission was to eliminate international threats of the Jewish people living in Israel. That was his mission. His mission is not to build a Beit HaMikdash. His mission is to set up the land of Israel, security-wise, amongst other things, that Shlomo can come at a time of peace and build a Beit HaMikdash. Because the Beit HaMikdash can only be built when there are no international security threats to the Jewish people. And therefore, Damim Rabim Shafachta, many often explain in their negative way, he has blood on his hands, he can't build a Beit HaMikdash. But the way I learned from my Rabbis is that he had his mission to do. And that was to spill blood, to create peace here in Eretz Yisrael. If Shlomo has to do away with people because his father said so, it's not going to take away from his ability to build a Beit HaMikdash. Why? Because in and around Shlomo, international peace. Ammon doesn't touch us. Edom doesn't touch us. Moab doesn't touch us. Mitzrayim is afraid of us. Aram Damasek, Aram Tzova, all these nations in and around the land of Israel, because of David's great war battles, no one's touching us. The turf is now prime, ready, set for Shlomo to build a Beit HaMikdash. The most difficult klipa that David had to fight was the Plishtim. For more than 400 years, the Plishtim could not be overtaken. From the time of Avram Avinu until David, they're thorns in our eyes. Okay?
Like now.
The Plishtim, just a few more words about them, so we should know. When you learn about their coming in the book of Bereshit, we see that they're born, the Plishtim is a mix of mamzerim, of bastards that they're marrying from one to another, from Mitzrayim, from the Canaanites. That's what the Plishtim come from. They're a mix of the lineages of Mitzrayim, which are abominations to human society, and the Canaanites, who are also the most vulgar of people. And I heard a shur on Shabbos by Rav Shmuel Eliyahu, the Rav of Tzvat, when we were in Beit El this Peshavat by some daughters of ours. And he explained that the klipa, on a spiritual side, the klipa of the Plishtim could not be defeated only after 440 years by David HaMelech. And they're very tough. Okay? And you're saying, and now as well, as if Shlomo is hinting to that the quote-unquote, the Arabs called by the world the Palestinians, which we know is a bluff, that word. Joan Peters because we're the real Palestinians, that were the Jewish people called by the Romans. And the land was called Palestine, the land of the Jewish people.
Rav Kahane said, who was it? Titus that he got off on the wrong side of the bed. Instead of calling them Judea or Yudim, would be the Judean Paris or something. I think he called it Palestine.
Okay. The truth is, there's a Vilna Gaon on the book of the prophets called Habakkuk that says that the element of the Plishtim will be revived later on in history, if I'm not mistaken, if I understood it well. And there will be an entity that will oppose the sovereignty of the Jewish people over the land of Israel, and that represents the Plishtim. And that's exactly what these Arabs are.
They're the Mufti of the Hitler.
What?
I just want to say, it's no coincidence that they call themselves Palestinians. No matter how it came to be that they call themselves Palestinians.
And not only that, last week's
when the Romans renamed the province to Syria, Palestina, they had a mind that the Palestinians the Philistines back then, the Philistine, were the arch enemies against the Jews for a long time.
That's right.
Also last week's Parsha, Hamas.
Okay. This week's.
That's what I mean.
I don't understand.
I'll get to that. That's in my shirt tomorrow, God willing. So the question we still want to answer is it true? Is this the last words of David? Open up, please, to Tehillim. Open up Psalms, Perek Ayin Bet.
It's weird how
Open up.
Tehillim is part of Tanakh.
What do you think? Ketuvim, scriptures.
Oh yeah?
Sure.
Ayin Bet, yeah.
I never knew that.
I know it can teach you something. Tehillim Ayin Bet. Ayin Bet. Who's speaking? David.
Psalms
Lishlomo.
72.
He's speaking. Here's the prayer of David HaMelech for the success of the kingdom of Shlomo. Elokim, mishpatecha lemelech tein. Give your laws to the king. V'tzidkatcha leven melech, and to the righteousness to the son of the king, who is Shlomo. Ken yadin amcha betzedek, may your nation judge matters with righteousness. V'aniyecha b'mishpat, and so on and so on. Look at all these psukim, spiritual values of judgment, of peace, of success internationally. Okay, or may all the kings bow down to Shlomo. May all the nations serve him. May Shlomo save the poor that are crying out and the impoverished that have no one to help them. Look at all this. And how does Shlomo end this lovely chapter of blessing to Shlomo? Let's look at the last two verses. Uvaruch, tell me if you've seen these psukim before. Uvaruch Shem Kivodo Leolam. And may the name, his glorious name, be blessed Leolam forever. V'yimalech Vodo. We're talking about the King of Israel, the God of Israel, and may his glory be filled up at Kol Haaretz. Amen ve'amen. Is that in our Siddur, in the Psukei de Zimra? There it is. And then what is the next pasuk, 4 or 5 words? Kalu Tfilot David ben Yishai. This is the last speech of who?
David HaMelech. Oh, this one? Where I understand.
Look at the end pasuk. Kalu Tfilot David ben Yishai. This is the end. This culminates the Tfilot.
What's the end? Which one?
This chapter
The whole chapter.
is the last speech
Ayin Bet.
of David for the success of Shlomo's Malchut, and all great and deep spiritual values, Torah values, are related to here. So what do you see? Have you ever been to an optometrist? And he says you're narrow-sighted? What must you be able to see?
Peripheral. Sides.
You have to see the big picture. What is the big picture? We don't learn Tanakh and isolate this chapter. If you're sitting in university with a professor and he's taking apart this chapter this way and that way, and you refuse to look at other chapters, other books of the Tanakh, then you suffer from being narrow-sighted. But we know, as our rabbis have taught us, Rabbi Tzviuda would repeat the pasuk in Psalms, maybe some of you know it, Torat Hashem Timima Mishivat Nafesh. The Torah of God is complete. It restores the soul. The Gemara asks, when does the Torah restore the soul? When you treat the Torah in a complete way. But if we treat the Torah from a small detail here or a small detail there and isolate it, not look at the big picture, then we're not treating the Tanakh in a proper way. Here in Sefer Melachim, we read a glimpse, a part of what? Of the last will and testament. It's not the last words. You with the kippah. You wanted to address this last will and testament and say, wow, David's words, he's just, sounds like the Italian mafia. He has a head list. He has a blacklist. That's how he's ending his life, by saying what to revenge? No, that's part one. This is only one little addendum of his last will and testament. Look at the values that he's telling Shlomo here in chapter 82 of Psalms. So certainly there are many messages of values, of ethics, of spirituality. So too, please look up chapter 28 in Divrei Hayamim. In chapter 28 of Divrei Hayamim, what do we find and see? Divrei Hayamim. Okay. Can I, together with you? We found it right away. 2 pages. Here in chapter 28, here is a speech of David. The speech of David, when Shlomo is being reigned as king, he collects together all the ministers of the tribes and of Israel. And he addresses everyone. Everyone stands up. And he mentions, let's read from verse 3. Velokim amarli, God told me, Lo tivne bayit lishmi, I will not build a bayit for my name. Ki ish milchamot, because I was a man of war. V'damim shafachta, and bloods did you spill. Vayivchar Hashem Elokei Yisrael, God chose me mikol beit avi, liot l'melech ha'Yisrael leolam. Ki b'Yehuda, because in Judah, Bachar l'nagid, God chose. We're in 28 of Divrei Hayamim 1. I'm sorry, they didn't specify that. All of Divrei Hayamim 1 is until David, and then we go to the time of Shlomo. But you see throughout this entire chapter, a speech of David, and then he hands over the plans of the Beit HaMikdash to Shlomo. The blueprints, the blueprints and the plans of building the Beit HaMikdash, Shlomo is handed over by David. All the matters, okay? And how does he end his speech to build the Beit HaMikdash? Go to verse 20. Vayomer David l'Shlomo beno, chazak ve'ematz v'aseh. He encourages him. He strengthens the spirit of Shlomo. Strength, courage, and do. Al tira, v'al techat. Don't be fearful. Why? Ki Hashem Elokim Elokei imach. God is with you. Lo yarpacha. He will not wean off of you. V'lo yazveka. He will not leave you. Ad lichlot, until you finish. Kol melech avodat Beit Hashem. So here you see this too is of the last speeches, the last will and testimony of David. Okay? And in fact, if you go to the next chapter, 29, verse 10 and on, it's inserted in our Siddur, in the Psukei de Zimra. Do you see that? Yeah. Vayivarech David. Here's the blessing of David and his prayer to Hashem about Am Yisrael and the Beit HaMikdash. And this is the ending of Divrei Hayamim Aleph. Summary of what we just said. What we just saw here, and I learned this idea from Rav Vered also, from the yeshiva in the Machon, who unfortunately just lost his nephew in battle, or niece in battle, one of the two, I think, yesterday, unfortunately. Hashem Yikom Dama. When we read here only about the blacklist of David who has to be taken care of, and some of us are appalled, is these the last words of David? No. We learned the Tanakh in a wider scale. We saw Tehillim 82. We saw Divrei Hayamim 28 and 29. There we see all the great values, the ideology, the mitzvot, the carefulness that David is handing down to his son Shlomo. It's not just this. Why is only this stated here? Because here we're talking about the political system of Israel, a new kingdom. And in order for a new kingdom to have insurance, the people that are a threat to that kingdom, the people that think they can do whatever they want, they can't be trusted. Not Yoav ben Tzruya and not Mr. Shimi ben Gera. Again, like I said to you before, if they would come forward and say, you know what, we made a mistake. The way we spoke to David, the way we treated David, we made a mistake. I'm not going to do it. I'll recognize whoever your defense minister is, and give me any mission, I'll do. But he doesn't say that. And therefore, David has every reason to think that this man, Yoav, and Shimi are a threat to the fortification, to the strengthening of the kingdom. Tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see what Shlomo indeed does. How does he address Adoniyahu, and how does he address the others? B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see that tomorrow.